to and things that we could not, obligations to take care of last Monday, so we're back. Usually we're almost always here on Monday mornings with very rare exceptions. So we missed you last Monday morning. It's good to start out our Monday mornings here with you guys. In fact, it's actually a morning I look forward to because I look forward to starting out the week with everyone that is here and doing what is here. And I also want to say, Melinda, we missed you last week. I'm glad to be back to see you. I'm glad you joined us online, and I'm glad that you brought everybody else with you from DHE. So everybody from DHE that is watching this morning, welcome. I'm glad you're here with us. So what I wanted to talk this morning about, and kind of it's not really a series or anything, it's just kind of where I go from week to week. But what has struck me this last week is, and I'm going to talk about manhood in the Bible. And how does the Bible look at men, the characteristics of men in particular? What are the characteristics of men? And this applies, it applies to women in the framework of, if you can understand other people more, it opens up communications. Because men are obviously different than women. Women are obviously different than men. But if you understand each other more, and that's what the video was about last week, understanding people more so that you have, with that better understanding, you can have better dialogue, better communication. And if you communicate better, then you relate better to them. And if you relate better to them, it becomes a whole lot easier to just hang out and have grace and mercy for everybody. But I want to caution you, the grace and mercy should be there even if you're not relating to them, even for a stranger. And so that's where I want to go with that, looking at people, looking at how they're different, but understanding that difference so that you can then relate to them. I shared a story yesterday morning. I'm going to share it again this morning. And let me get a drink first. Saturday afternoon, Shelley and I drove to Bartlesville, and there was a fundraiser going on. At the middle of one of the main intersections there, we drove through, and a whole bunch of people, one at each corner, had big placards requesting donations for a lady that was getting ready to have surgery for cancer. And my philosophy is, and I've asked other people about this, I generally never give cash because I know where cash usually goes. It goes to the liquor store, it goes to the meth house. And so I just ignored the people and I drove on through. And as soon as I got through, I felt an overwhelming need to turn back around and actually give cash, which is not like me. We'll go buy a hamburger, we'll buy a meal, we'll put gas in somebody's tank. It isn't that we don't give. It's generally I try to give in a product, not in cash. If you need gas to get out of town or to another town, to an appointment or whatever, we'll help you with gas. But I'm not going to give you money, cash, to go buy gas. I'll go just buy the gas for you. That's pretty much where we're at on that. Because it's, I'm going to maybe take a rabbit trail here. I remember one time in particular, I was out at the car wash. Car wash is right next to a restaurant and a liquor store. Guy was asking money for food. I said, I'll go buy you a bag of hamburgers and bring them back to you. He was less than interested in having a bag of hamburgers bought for him. He wanted the cash so he could go buy it himself. Okay. So anyway, I went up and I told him I would, so I went and bought a bag of hamburgers at McDonald's anyway, took him back, handed him the bag, and he didn't even want the bag anymore, which tells me, no, he never wanted food. That isn't what he wanted. And so I thought, okay, I went out to do this for you, but how can I then help you if you're not willing to accept, and I'm not willing to give you to enable what you want to do? And that's my interpretation. I don't want to be an enabler. Okay? I don't want to enable you to go out and further drugs and other things. So had another conversation, and I'll paraphrase Pastor Jim. You'll see him on Friday mornings. So I asked him this question, and he was referencing one of his friends. And I always love his stories. He has the best stories. And so he was telling about a pastor friend of his that was an alcoholic at one time. And he said once the guy had a revelation, he stopped drinking, he turned his life to Christ, he became a pastor. He said his friend now, when he goes by somebody that is soliciting for money, he gives them a couple of bucks. He always carries dollar bills in his pocket so he can give them a couple dollar bills. And so the question is, why are you giving them the money? Because you know what they're going to spend it for. He says, yeah, I know what they're going to spend it for, but I've been there. And I know that they're just trying to survive another day. So that they can then someday, hopefully, come here to Hannah's house or wherever they're going to say, God, I'm yours. I want to do something different with my life. I want to take my life another direction. But up until somebody gets to that point, they are just surviving day by day. So, in fact, I want to ask you, how many of you people, before you came into the Hannah's House program, were surviving simply day by day? One, two, yeah, a whole bunch of you. It's just about getting through this day, making it through the day because of all the emotional woundedness. And this is the emotion and the woundedness. And this is what I've seen in most people that are both, or either or both, alcoholics or into the drug program, into drug addiction, is I need to numb my pain. And it can be either physical pain, which a lot of times what alcohol is about, especially an older generation. Back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, before pain pills became common, there was no way to numb the physical pain that they had abused their bodies all their life, working hard manual labor. And their bodies were tired and worn out, and they were simply in physical pain. It was to numb that physical pain. Now it's pills, do the same thing. So it can be either physical pain or the emotional pain of being wounded. As a child on up, from parents, from friends, from whoever else that has wounded you, tried to steal your identity by telling you that you are of no value, you will never amount to anything, so therefore I can take advantage of you and use you myself. And there's a lot of emotional baggage that goes along with that, a lot of emotional pain. And so at one point in your life, you were simply trying to numb that pain to make it through to another day. Okay? What this is all about here is not helping you to cope with drugs or alcohol to make it through to another day, but to heal you so you no longer have to cope with it, and you are free to not only make it through to another day, but to walk out and rejoice, just to walk out in freedom. And that's what it's all about. Walk out in emotional, spiritual freedom so that you no longer have to just cope and look at, my life is just all about making it through another day. I want you to do more than make it through another day. I want you to look forward to more than just another day. We've asked before, when you finish here, and so I'll jump to this and ask the question again. After you finish here, you're going to do some things and you're still going to be growing, but where would you like your life to be in 10 years? What would you like to be doing with your life in 10 years? Anybody have a thought on that? Nick. Nick is over here. Give him the mic.
I would like to have my own restaurant.
I want to eat your cooking someday.
Yes.
Okay. Before we started here, I promised to bring you some homemade blackened seasoning.
Yep.
Okay. In exchange, there's no exchange required, but you
Right.
may feel generous enough to to share something back with me at some point?
I sure will.
Okay, I will take you up on
All
that.
right.
A restaurant. I love that. You've got plans. You're looking forward to doing something with your life other than just surviving to the next day. And life is about dreams and expectations. Natasha, your dreams and expectations in 10 years.
I'd like to be further in my walk with God and helping others that have been in the same position I've been in.
Further with yourself and then also helping each other, helping others.
Yeah.
Okay.
Preferably young ladies.
About a month ago, a quote I gave here, Gloria Steinem. The final stage of healing is helping others. That's for you, Natasha. Okay. Who else? Larry.
Well, this is a bold step for me because I usually never speak. So where I want to be in 10 years is helping people the way that Hannah's House has helped me, and helping to, when people go through situations in their marriages, to help them to keep their marriage.
Very again, getting to the point of helping other people. Turning it around to just, because right now, up or before coming here, your focus was all on yourself. I know it was. You don't have to even acknowledge that. I obviously know that everything up to the point that you came here was all about yourself, because your goal was to survive another day, period. I understand that. A sign that there is true healing that has started to happen in your lives is that you're turning that around from yourself into looking forward to helping other people. Natasha, Larry, some others there. Even having a restaurant, selling meals is helping other people. As you're selling meals and cooking in that restaurant, you can minister to other people. You can do that. And that's a part of turning around from yourself, turning the focus around from yourself onto other people. Go ahead, give the mic back to Nick.
So when I'm in the kitchen, and I'm having a bad day, that's my release. That's where I find peace and joy.
Okay. Amen. Yeah, that's your, and I'll call it your safe place.
Right.
That's a lot of people want to call it a comfort zone, which it is, but it's your safe place where your thoughts are yours. You're in your own element.
Right.
So I like that. And we all need to find that. In fact, that's an interesting question. Where is a safe place for each and every one of you? Because they're all going to be different. And not right, wrong, good, or bad, just different. And it's interesting because if everybody was the same, I would be bored with you guys.
Right.
I'm not bored with you guys, okay? I assure you. Let's turn the mic over here.
Okay, so everyone knows that I have a passion for animals. So
Okay.
I want to be a vet tech or a veterinarian one day.
Okay, I like that. You've got plans for your life. And once you start making those plans, whether it be a restaurant or being a veterinarian, the next step is to plan the steps to accomplish that. Okay? So when you get out of here, you may stay in the reintegration program for a while to help become more solid in where you're at with the Lord and where you're at emotionally. But getting beyond that, I assume you're going to be working someplace. You're going to be saving money so that you can go to school and take classes so that you can then further this. There's steps in the process is what I'm saying. And so once you decide on that goal, then start planning out the steps, step by step by step, that are reasonable steps that you can accomplish that will take you and get you to that goal. Okay? Same as a restaurant. You won't just go out tomorrow and open a restaurant.
Yeah, you got to have your serve safe test and all that. I've already taken the serve safe. In order to be a manager at a restaurant, you have to take it.
Okay? So, but you're talking about owning your own restaurant, right? Okay?
Start off small. I'm going to have, my boss is actually going to help me with this. He's going to, once I graduate.
We need to have the mic so everybody online can hear us.
So my boss decided, because he knows what my dreams are, he's going to help me get a small food truck, and that's how I'm going to start it out. Start it out small, and then I don't want nothing big, just like a 10-table little restaurant, maybe 20 at the tops. But yeah, he's going to help me get the truck, and then all the testing is on me, and the schooling, because I mean, even though I know how to cook, there's still schoolwork that has to be done.
Yeah. And there's so many things involved, and restaurants just a good example.
Yeah.
Not the only example, but it applies everywhere. What about all the, and you said your boss is going to help you, which is wonderful. There's inventory to buy,
Yep.
to cook, before you sell it and somebody pays you for it. You've already have an investment there. You have deposits to turn on utilities, the same as if you went out and rented a house. There is a lot of cash outflow just when you open the doors before
Right.
you start receiving any revenue. You need to be able to cover that. I had a conversation with a lady in another town, and it was an interesting conversation for me because I knew her and I worked with her, and she had worked for years as a waitress in a restaurant. And the person that was running the restaurant was ready to retire and get out of it, so she bought the lady out and used her savings, bought the lady out, opened the restaurant in her name, and the local paper came by and interviewed her to get her started, get her name in the paper, you know, the new restaurant opening. And she said, "I've been a waitress for 15 years. I think I know how to run a restaurant." And so I went in there. She served really good food, really wonderful service. 2 years later, she was filing bankruptcy. And it wasn't because she didn't have a good restaurant, because she did. She served wonderful food. She did. She, and I'm not talking about you, Nick, but she didn't understand the business end of it,
The money management.
the money management end. She knew the hands-on service end of it, and she was very good at that. So she was good at what she was doing, but she had never been trained in the business end of it.
Right.
And the business end almost always takes people down because they don't know what they don't know. Okay? It was not an intelligence issue with this lady. She was intelligent. You know, she knew what she was doing. She just did not have the experience on the business end. And by the time you get the experience on the business end, usually the finances are too far gone to recover.
Right.
Okay, I've seen, I'll use another example, an auto mechanic shop. Wonderful guys, very talented. It takes a lot of good knowledge to be a good auto mechanic. It doesn't just happen. It's a skill, and it's a tremendously valuable skill. I can go out and I can open my own shop, and I can work on these cars, and he's got lots of good business, and lots of people come and go, and he puts out a good product. And also, again, many times, many times, far too many times, a year later, they're closed up and ready to file bankruptcy. They've gone through all their savings. And it's not because they didn't know how to work on cars, not that they didn't know how to, not that they didn't have plenty of business, it's they didn't know how to handle the business end. So that's my encouragement.
Right.
Study, train before you get started on handling the business end of it, because I want everybody to be successful in whatever you are. A veterinarian, a restaurateur, you know, I want you to be successful. And all that success is based on preparation. Okay, you have the intelligence to do it. So it's not intelligence, it's education, knowledge, training, to be able to do it so that you are successful. And part of that is putting your ego aside so you can go out and seek people with that knowledge to mentor you, to move you forward to that next step, so that again, when you get to your goal, you can succeed in your goal and not be frustrated by
Right.
it. Okay, anybody else? 10 years now? Yeah. Jennifer, right? Ah, I got that right. Where do you want to be in 10 years?
To follow the path of the Lord and be a better person to my children. And finally have that connection with my other three that are in Oregon.
Okay. Again, I see and I'm going to interpret this, if you don't mind me a little bit, you're wanting to be helpful to your children.
Correct.
About helping others. Okay. By being a good mother, a good father, good parent, but a good mother in particular, you are helping your children to then grow up to be the children that God has them designed to be.
Yes,
Okay. And where does that all start with?
with me.
Absolutely, Jennifer. It starts with you. And you are starting that transformation here.
Correct.
Okay? So you're already, by choosing to be here, you're starting that process. So you've set yourself a goal, but you've not only set yourself a goal, you've taken the first step toward accomplishing that goal.
Yep.
Congratulations. I think that's outstanding. Anybody else? Anything you want to share? Okay, we'll kind of move on. I don't know that I finished my story. Yeah, you just wondered, Daryl, are you ever going to finish your story?
Nick says he wants a business of just, with 10 tables, and
Give-
I've been wanting, or I didn't mean to tell him that.
Hold the mic up so we can hear you.
I don't think you're gonna see just a small business. I think you'll be getting about 10 businesses spread out. So reach big. You'll,
My main goal is 10 tables, like I said, I don't want nothing big, nothing real fancy,
right?
kind of like a mom and pop store.
Yeah. So I had to say that.
Yeah,
it's
good.
gonna-
Absolutely. Yeah, start it, get that experience, get that solid base, and then build off of that. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, Vanna.
Okay, I've been kind of dozing in and out over here, but the last part of that I heard was Michael telling Nick that he's not gonna have small, it may start off small, but God doesn't do small. He's gonna have it big for you, buddy. So.
Okay, very cool. Think big and work toward that. Just because you think big doesn't mean it has to be big tomorrow. But your plan is big, so tomorrow you start working and building toward that big plan or that big goal, that big accomplishment, the franchise, the next, what's the name of the restaurant? Okay, I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to think of a good name for you. I'll have to get back. We'll get back with you on that. Nick's Barbecue Restaurant. See, you've already got a partner there to work with. All right, I like that. Yeah, some way to bounce ideas off of each other, to work back and forth, to do that. Same connections, absolutely. Okay, I got distracted and never finished my story about the lady that was soliciting funds for cancer surgery. But anyway, the cancer surgery really hits home with me. I've had I've had surgery for cancer. I've had chemo, I've had radiation, I've had surgery, a number of surgeries, and all that is behind me. I'm done with that. I'm 6 years cancer-free. I'm good, thank you. And I'm proud of that. But I will say, through everything that the doctors did, it was all at the hand of God. And so in the end, I give God credit for my healing. God, I want you to know, I give you all the credit. And God using a doctor to do that and accomplish that, I don't mind that at all. I'll take that. I'm not going to pick and choose, God, how you decide to heal me. If you decide to heal me immediately through prayer, I will receive that and take that. If you decide to heal me through a doctor, I will receive and take that also. So anyway, I went through the intersection of Bartlesville. Back to the story. I went through the intersection of Bartlesville there. And I don't know whether you want to call it a conviction or what. I just felt a hugely strong impulse to turn around and give them money, which I've already shared with you is not what we normally do. But I turned around and I told Shelley I need to turn around and drive back through the intersection again. And I pulled out some money and I gave him money out of my billfold, some cash, more than a couple dollars, but it didn't break the bank type of thing. Just a good donation, and shared with the guy just in 5 seconds, I've been there. I've had the cancer surgery. Bless her. Heal her, Lord. And so it was just something I felt I really needed to do. It was impressed upon me, and I very seldom have had anything impressed upon me so strongly that I needed to do this. I just needed to do this. Whether it was for her or whether it was for me, doesn't matter. I just needed to do that. And the last part of that is when you hear something like that from God, when you hear God say, I need to open a restaurant, when you hear God say, I want you to be a veterinarian, the only single advice to follow that is be obedient. When you hear that, when you hear God speaking to you, be obedient. Absolutely, that's where we're going. Manhood in the Bible. We'll see if we get to this morning. There's a lot of controversy in the discussions of gender these days, and this isn't about gender at all. This is more about character and the character of who men are, who women are, and those ideas are conflicting right now. But in the Bible, they're very clear. Okay, there is specifically men with men or male characteristics, or specifically women with female characteristics, and they are different, and that is okay. But in the end, the bottom line, men and women are absolutely equal in the Bible. They are given different responsibilities, different duties, different capabilities, but they are equal in value, equal what they bring to the table as far as tools and skills and everything else. No one is superior, no one is inferior. They are all equal. Even though their responsibilities are different, they are both needed. If Shelley and I were exactly alike, if we were exactly identical, two things would happen. First of all, I would be bored to tears with somebody just like me. I don't want somebody just like me. I want somebody that's similar to me, but with different characteristics. Also, if we were identical, one of us would be unnecessary. Yeah, think about that one. If Shelley and I were exactly identical, one of us would be unnecessary. I want somebody that is different. One of the difficulties in our differences, though, Shelley is black and white, very black and white. Everything to me is a subtle shade of gray. Go ahead and laugh, it's true. That's why Shelley, to this day, she's done it once, she will never again go shoe shopping with me. It was excruciatingly painful for her.
Awful.
Okay, we can laugh over that. And so generally when I find a pair of shoes that I really like, well, when those wear out, I go back and I buy an identical pair of those shoes that I really like, and I'll go through 4 or 5 pair of those shoes that were identically alike, so I don't have to go through that process again. Let's see, do I need a half size larger, another digit wider? Do these come up quite, do these feel quite, no, And so to somebody like me that everything is a subtle shade of gray, decision-making becomes very difficult. And so I have to come to the realization, just do it and move on. And that's where Shelley helps me. Being black and white, she pulls me and gets me off center. And I don't mean that in a bad way, I mean that in a good way. So she gets me going and moving instead of dwelling on, well, this, or maybe with this, or well, we also have to think about this. And no, let's just decide to move on, okay? Shelley being black and white, sometimes I have to keep her from running off in a tangent on that either black or white trail and decide there. So we balance each other out is what I'm talking about. And so the difference is good. If we were both a subtle shade of gray like I am, Lord save us. Literally, yeah, really. Different is not bad. In fact, I encourage differences. Differences stimulate conversations. Differences stimulate ideas, new ideas. If you thought exactly the way I thought, you would never bring a new idea into the conversation. I want to have a conversation where you bring new thoughts into it. So you make me think of something a little bit differently. So I look at it then maybe differently and expand what I'm doing. I want that expansion in my conversation. Shelley does that with me. She expands my thinking and my conversation so that we have not just a broader conversation, but a more detailed conversation. And usually our conversation is, a lot of times, not always, is driving in the car. I don't normally like to drive with the radio on. And so what happens when you're driving with two people in the car and the radio's not on and it's just quiet there? Can you tell me what starts to happen? You start talking. Thank you, Drew. Exactly. You start talking. If you have the radio on, you just listen to the music and nobody says anything. Turn off the radio, the car's quiet, and then you start talking. You start communicating. You start relating to each other. So that's my little world there. Anyway, within the Christian community, there's a significant debate over the best way to apply the Bible's concepts of manhood and womanhood, and how to live out a unique God-given role of man and women, because God lists the roles as different, even though, and I want to preface this, men are not all alike. They're generally alike. Women are not all alike. They're generally alike. And so there may be some boundaries that cross a little bit there. I've got no problems with that. Fill out the role that you were designed to fill, okay? Not every man is going to be a good cook. Some of you guys are. That's okay. You don't all need to be exactly the same there, okay? Biblical manhood can be boiled down to 5 basic principles which each man is expected to conform to, basically, by society here. But I want to go through these, and we'll talk about these. First of all, humility before God. That is the foundation of your leadership. Humility before God. We're going to teach here, and within, hopefully, any church that you go to now or in the future, God comes first in your life. Family comes second. Church comes third. So if we miss a Sunday to go visit family, I don't feel guilty at all because God is still first in our lives. Now, if I never came to church again, then start worrying about me. But if I just miss a Sunday here or there or do something and I spend it with family, I'm okay because God is still first in my life. Be humble before God is number 1. Number 2, control your appetite. Appetite is much broader than food. Appetite could be an appetite for alcohol and an appetite for drugs, along with appetite for food. Appetite can be many things. Control, self-control of your appetite. What is your appetite? Not only what it is, but what do you want it to be? What you should want it to be is humility in God. So number 2 is control your appetite. Number 3, protecting your family. Biblically, God designed men to be a protector. Biblically, God created women to be nurturers. Now, that doesn't mean every man is going to be that protector, every woman's going to be that nurturer. Men can nurture children just as well. I've seen mama bear women that are very protective of their family. I buy that. I get that. It happens. And it should. So I want to think of this broad. I don't want to be so narrow focused on this that I'm going to put everybody into a box and say, this is the only way you can act. This is the only way you can operate. Broaden yourself there. Be careful of the mama bear when her cub is in danger. Just saying, okay? So that was number 3, protecting your family. Number 4, providing for your family, okay? The provision is in many ways, and let's kind of talk about this a little bit. Provision is generally thought of, when I mention those words, you generally thought of going to work, providing finances. I know that was your first thought, and that because that's your obvious thought. The providing for your family goes much deeper than that, though. Providing for your family, and this is the real difference between men and women. When I said men and women are absolutely equal, which I believe they are, men have the added responsibility of providing for their family. But I want you to think beyond finances. I want you to think of spiritual providing. I want you to think of moral providing. I want you to think of providing an atmosphere of health and life in your home. I want you to think of providing all of this. Moral guidance for your children. Character that your children see in you that may never be spoken. But yeah, I saw Dad going to work every day. And I saw that we had food on the table every night. And yes, Dad did take me to go to my ball games on Friday nights. He was there for me. He provided for me. He provided that atmosphere that when I look back on now as an adult, I think, that was just pretty good. That was cool, Dad. Thanks. Be that parent that your children will grow up and look back upon. Shelley?
Daddy's put the fun in the family, too.
Daddy put the fun in the family. I like that.
If you notice, like I've really noticed this with the grandchildren, they love me when they need food or diaper changed or a bottle or hurt boo-boo, but when they want to play, they go to Papa. And he plays with them, and that's really who they want to be with. Just being honest.
So grandparents, not only fathers, but grandfathers put the fun into the kids.
Yeah.
And so be the father, be the grandfather, that when those children grow up, you've built memories into them that they want to emulate. Emulate, word of the day. Meaning, I want to be like that. That's who I want to grow up to be like. That's me. And you start that at home on the first day you bring that baby home. I failed on that. I failed. So, number 4, providing for his family. Number 5, leading your family. Leading, I'll give you a definition of leadership. Servant. Cut, dried, period. The definition of a good leader is servant. And the higher you get up in leadership, the more of a servant you become. And I'll use the example, and I've used this, I'll have to come up with a new example sometime. Think of a medieval European kingdom. If all of the people in the kingdom are in poverty and destitute, they have nothing to share with the king, Therefore, the king is also in poverty and destitute. If the king is the kind of leader that he grows things, that he gives opportunity to people, that he teaches them, he mentors them, he gives them the chance to grow, then they will be in a place where they can produce. And once they can produce, then they can share that back with the king, and the king will share in their prosperity. The king is prosperous when he is a servant. When he is a tyrant, he will have nothing. A tyrant parent will have no legacy to build and grow and live out. A servant parent. And I'm going to qualify this a little bit. A servant doesn't mean just simply taking care of all your children's needs, because you need to teach them how to take care of their own needs. If you take care of everything for them, they never learn how to do it for themselves, and therefore when they grow up, they are back into the poverty. So we need to have a balance of that. And part of that balance is, and if you remember in my definition I gave, a king that mentors, that teaches, that gives them opportunity to grow. One of the first things I did with the kids and with the grandkids is ask them to make decisions, small decisions. Do you want chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream? That's the fun in grandparents, okay? But it's not important which they choose, but I've given them the opportunity to make a decision. Very simple. You start out with simple decision making. Give them that opportunity to choose. Give them choices. We have our grandson Jude. He said, his comment on the story that his dad gave us, he said, I'm going to order some pizza for tonight. And Jude's first question was, do we have options? You got to love that. Do we have options? Not just are we going to have pizza, but do we have options with that pizza? Yes, give them that choice. Encourage them to say, I would like this, this, and this. And then you as the leader, make the final decision, no, that's not appropriate, but yes, this is appropriate. You're going to have to decide, you're going to have to help lead them into making appropriate decisions and identifying between which are appropriate decisions to make and which are not appropriate decisions to make. Mothers and mothers both do that. It goes both ways there. But the father, it's your responsibility to take that leadership role, to not only allow and encourage everybody that you're serving, your children, your grandchildren, to make decisions and teaching them how to make decisions, but it's also giving them a mentoring mentality to help them choose between what are appropriate decisions and what are inappropriate decisions. Because I'm not going to let my grandchild make just any decision he wants, because some of them may be inappropriate. But within reason, I want to allow him to make those decisions so he has practice, so he has confidence that I can choose. But I'm going to then mentor those choices so that they are appropriate choices in the right direction. That is leadership. That is the true servant of a parent in wherever you're at. But that's number 5 right there, leading your family. Leading them to be independent someday in their own life. And you do that by mentoring them and teaching them how to make decisions and teaching them how to make good decisions. I'm going to guess, because I've asked this before, a year or two ago, how many of you made good decisions that brought you into a drug culture? Was it good decisions that brought you there? No. Go figure. So if it wasn't good decisions, then I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to guess it was bad decisions took you into the drug culture. So if it was bad decisions, how did you learn how to make those bad decisions? Yeah, that's a tough one that's really, I don't know, that can be answered. I'm not going to expect anybody to answer that question. Levi, you want to share something? Yeah, but I want to hear what you're saying.
Just being out in the streets, picking it up from other people I was around. I didn't too much learn it from home, like as far as drug habits or whatever. I picked it up moving around in the streets, learning how to sell it, distribute it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I learned mine from the streets.
So what bad decisions brought you to that point?
Leaving home early.
Leaving
I ran
home
away
early,
from-
okay.
I ran away from home when I was 15 and ran away to Tulsa and got with the, I guess you said, wrong crowd, trying to survive out in the streets by myself. Started robbing and
Running around people
whatever,
that were
yeah.
not a good influence on you.
Yeah.
That's why we need parents that are good influences on their children. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
And that's basically it. Just trying to learn how to survive.
Trying to learn how to
Yeah.
survive.
Too
Right.
young, too young to get money in my pocket like I wanted to, and I wanted a lot of things. So I just picked it up from people that I was around.
So if it took hypothetically 100 bad decisions to get you to where you are at right now, how many good decisions will it take just to get back to neutral? 1 or 100? 101. But, okay, it'll probably, Shelley's right, it's probably going to take, if 100 bad decisions got to where you're at, it may take 100 good decisions to get you back. But it starts with that first one good decision, and that's the 101 that Shelley's referencing to. Ah, okay, I misspoke. I misspoke,
No,
forgive me.
my take is if it took 100 bad decisions to get you where you are, it's going to take 100 good to get you back to neutral. It's going to take 101 to get you ahead.
Okay, I see that. Yeah. Yeah, very good point. Absolutely. Yeah. So continue making those good decisions so that you then become either the man of God or the woman of God that God has you designed to be. And each one of us are individuals. We're going to be subtly different. Levi, you and I are different. We probably think different, but I'm going to guess not a whole lot different. But because we're two different individuals, we're going to look at things a little bit differently. Jeff, you and I are going to look at things a little differently. Not right or wrong, just because we're two different individuals, we're going to look at things a little differently. And then we're going to discuss it, and I'm going to find out how you look at things, and that's going to give me an epiphany moment where I can say, okay, yeah, I understand that better now than I did before. That's the conversation we're talking about. But a good leader is a good listener. Not only a good servant, but a good listener. And so listening is when you find out more about other people. But anyway, that last one, number 5, being a leader. Men who fail to meet these expectations are not becoming the man they were designed to be or the men they were designed to be, biblically speaking, but is something less noble. I'm going to use a couple of scripture references here. Psalm 49:20. People who have wealth but lack understanding are like the beasts that perish. It isn't all about wealth. Wealth is nice to have. Yeah, I'd like to win the lottery. I won't deny that. But that's not my focus. Okay? It might be someone's focus to get them into the next step to take them closer to their goal. But if it's all about wealth, then you've lost everything. More important is understanding, wisdom. Nick, if you open a restaurant with $10,000 in your pocket, without knowledge or wisdom, you could burn through that $10,000 real quickly, and a year from now be closing your restaurant doors. $5,000 or $6,000 just to open it. But without wisdom, you're going to burn through that and be closing your doors back down. Okay, so more important than that is wisdom and knowledge. Notice I didn't put intelligence in there because you already got that. But wisdom and knowledge so that you know how to use that 5,000, that 10,000 wisely as you're operating that restaurant so that you can then make a profit and build that $5,000 or $6,000 into even more so that you can then use that as income to take home and benefit and bless your family. That is all knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge and wisdom is more valuable than wealth. The wealth is nice. You're going to need something to start on. But you need the knowledge and wisdom to be able to build it. Look for that knowledge. Seek that knowledge and wisdom there. Men and women are created in the image of God, and sometimes, and something no other creature can claim. I want to, in fact, I'm going to jump into a couple of scripture here, and then we'll keep moving on. Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 and 27. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image." And a lot of people stop and question who the us was. God didn't say, "I'm going to make man in my image." God said, "Let us make man in our image." Right or wrong, and you can doubt me on this one, my interpretation has always been the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit being the us. Let's give somebody not just a single value, let's give them multiple values. Larry, you have multiple values in you, not just one. You may have a primary one. Michael, you have a lot of value in you and a lot of different types of value. There may be one value that is more primary than the others, but it's not a single one all by itself with no others. You have lots of different types of values within you. Okay? Let us make mankind in our own image and our likeness so that they may rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, over all the creatures that move along the ground. Verse 27, so God created mankind in his own image, an image of God. He created them male and female. Basically, dominion authority. This is where you become that leader, and that leader is a servant. And as a servant, what does a servant do? He looks out after the best interest of everybody he is serving. And that's where I want you to be careful with dominion authority. If dominion authority means you can just use and abuse and use up that $5,000 or $6,000 for my own benefit, then you've misread this passage completely. This is all about being a good steward, taking care of it so that you grow it, so that you prosper it. And when the people you are serving prosper, then you by default will prosper. When your children, Jennifer, when your children prosper and do well, that will put a smile on your face, meaning that you have prospered also by them doing well. It comes back to you. If you simply use something up, then poof, and it's gone. Serve it so it grows with the intention of taking care of it. Taking care of it in your own hand. Taking care of your family in your own hand. Your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Take care of them all so that they grow up. And they then become your blessing back to you. Okay. The proper perspective for leadership, and this is number 5, the leadership part. I'm going to look at Ephesians chapter 5, verses 25 through 32. I may not quite read all of that. I want to read the first couple, though. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. This is that servant philosophy. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ, and this is the Christ part, Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Meaning, as the head of the family, as the head of the church, he was a servant. In fact, he was not only a servant, he was the lead servant. So that you take care of those people that are around you so that they prosper and they grow and they do better. And day by day, they make better decisions because you have put and mentored into them the knowledge and the wisdom to make better decisions. And as they make that better decisions, they grow and they become more proficient at what they're doing. And when they do, you become blessed in return. The fundamental requirement for biblical manhood is a proper relationship with God. This is back to, again, in your relationship, God comes first, family second, church third. But as long as God is first, the rest just fall into place. They really will. They do. It falls that way. I'm going to use Micah chapter 6, verse 8. Micah chapter 6, verse 8. And I don't normally go to Micah. That's my own issues with the prophet Micah. But in verse 8, know, O people, the Lord has told you what is good, and this is what he requires of you, to do what is right, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. So he's asking you, God is saying, do what is required of you. Number one, do what is right. You're going to have to make that own decision in your life, what is right in this situation. That's why your parents started teaching you as small children how to make good decisions. So you can see what is right in your life. Because every circumstance in your life will require you to make that evaluation. What is right here? What is right? To love mercy. Love mercy. Mercy means giving something that is undeserved. Grace, on the other hand, means getting something that I have not earned. Operate with grace and mercy. So, the second part of this, love mercy. Number 3, to walk humbly with your God, meaning, and I'll share one of my prayers before I start chapel almost every Monday morning. God, help me with this because I can't do it on my own. I don't want this to be me just talking and giving my thoughts. God, I want you to speak through me so that your people are fed and hear what they need, not what I need. So be humble in your walk. Be humble in how you handle people. Be humble, and that means taking and causing pride to be less. That's a big one for all of us. That's another issue that we won't get into. Pride is big and huge for most people. It's tough to be humble when you're prideful. Humble will take you a lot further in life. I'll share one last story, then we'll kind of close up. This is from some other friends, a story of a situation they had at work. And this was a business owner, and I've dealt with lots of business owners over the course of my career. Anyway, a business owner said, I had an employee that messed up. In fact, he used colorful words there, that messed up really badly. And it cost my business, a lot of money. I'm getting ready to fire him. But I'm going to call him into my office, and I'm going to talk to him about this. And his attitude will determine whether I fire him or not. He said, I'd already decided in advance, when he comes into my office, if he tries to put the blame on somebody else and say it was somebody else's fault, I did the best I could, it wasn't my fault, this was out of my control, he's out the door and he's gone. But if he comes into the office and says, I made a mistake, I should have done that differently, I will work on being a better employee, then I will keep him. He said he called the employee in. The employee was humble and continued working at that business for many, many years after that as a good employee. But he kept his job because he was humble and not self-prideful. Be humble in your life. Doesn't mean you have to be walked on, trampled, and abused. That is something completely different that I am not talking about. I'm talking about taking responsibility. And if you made a mistake, I made a mistake. I've made many mistakes with my children. Many mistakes. Take ownership of it. But not only take ownership of it, decide how to fix it, correct it, make good decisions off of that. Shelley, any final words? Any thoughts anybody wants to share? We're going to close with prayer right now then. Father God, I thank you for your presence here. I thank you for your word that you've brought to us so that you can mentor us, so that we can then be in a position to make better decisions in our life based on your word. In Jesus' name, amen.